And I'd like to call the March 4th Bedford School Board meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Boynton,
Here.
Mr. Kennedy,
Here.
Mrs. Patterson,
Present.
Mr. Stevens,
Here.
and Mr. Tench.
Here.
All right, can we stand for the pledge of allegiance? All right. Oh. Awards and presentation by Dr. Silverton.
Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. Good evening, board. Good evening to our guests and those of you who are listening at home. I'm happy to bring to you tonight a graduate that is actually a student that is graduating early because he has met all of his requirements. And we're very proud and honored to have him here this evening. And his name is Aaron Trevon Copeland. And Mr. Thompson will do the honors as always. So he'll come to the microphone. And then once you get it, we'll make sure that we come forward for a photo. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Selico. Good evening, Board President Patterson, board members. The student receiving their Bedford High diploma tonight has accomplished or completed the course of study prescribed by the Bedford Board of Education for Bedford High School class as first grade and accredited, and is therefore awarded this diploma from Bedford, Ohio on this 4th day of March, 2021. And now for the class of 2021, Aaron Trevon Copeland.
Tom, so why don't you get in there and get a picture with him? That would be nice. Dan's got it. Family, is there anyone back there who wants a picture with him or? Okay.
Take your coat off. Take your coat off.
There we Nice. Right. Congratulations.
Aaron. I'm back. Even though it's here, we still have to go around and shake each board member's hand because we are so very proud of you.
Oh.
Graduating early.
Congratulations. Proud of you. Good job.
We'll see him walking the stage as well. He'll get the opportunity to do that. Good. All right. Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Well, congratulations to you and Mom. I know that's your diploma, not his, because I know you worked just twice as hard as he did, and Dad too. So, but congratulations to you and the best of luck to you, and we'll see you in May. Okay. Audience participation, we have none. Thank you. All right. Board members, we have a consent agenda 401. I didn't get any calls. Dr. Selican, did you get any?
Did not.
Okay, so I'd like to have a motion for the consent agenda. Oh,
Oh, if I may, Mrs.
Yes,
Patterson, I
forgot.
apologize.
Yeah.
Board, I have a couple of changes to item I under my section, advance of general funds. My office is getting prepared to close the books tomorrow morning. So we may had a couple of last minute adjustments to our books, and these are for audit purposes. So I'll just go down the list of the advances and let you know what I'm changing. So for early childhood education, it's going from $2,000 to zero. For the ESSER, it's going from 40,000 to 40,500. For broadband, it's going from 4,000 to zero. IDEA, 40,000 to 41,500. Perkins grant, no change. Disadvantaged children, from 1,500 to 8,000. And then the last four, no change. So the total changes from 144,500 to 147 even.
What was that number again, Bill?
147 even. I thank you for your consideration.
Okay, any questions?
Will there be an addendum to this later on? I mean, so we have it a part of our record?
Oh, yes, it'll be part of the minutes. Yes, Mr. Tench.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none,
Right. Now, the reason for not having it, you had this last minute, I mean, not last minute, but you had to make some changes based on what again now?
But closing the books, as we were getting ready to prepare to close the month of February, we had a couple of last minute adjustments to make to these grants.
any other questions? Need to have a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Tench. Second by Mrs. Boynton. Any other questions? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tench,
Aye.
Mrs. Boynton,
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy.
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson,
Aye.
Mr. Stevens.
Aye.
5-0, thank you, board. 5.01, this is the first reading. We do not have to vote on it.
That's correct, yes, Mrs. Patterson. 5.01, I have two items this evening. 5.01 is the first reading of the equity policy, as you see there, and would ask that we give that some careful consideration. As you know, that equity has grown, the topic everywhere we turn. We are hearing and learning more about it, and we have been vested as a district, and would appreciate the board's support in creating a policy. And so therefore, we're putting this before you this evening for your first reading. And if there are any questions, as always, please feel free to ask for clarification or anything I can do to help. And I'm sorry, 5.02 then, Mrs. Patterson, is the OPSI contract. And we are seeking your approval this evening for the negotiated agreement. We know this has taken a while. I'm glad to have gotten here. We met with the union another couple of times with your permission, which I appreciate you allowing us the opportunity to have more time with them. I think we came to a great resolution and worked well with them together. So I ask for your approval of their contract this evening. Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion for 5.01, the OPSI contract.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Excuse me.
Stevens.
No, that was not, I know your name. Mr. 5.02, not one. The OPSI contract. Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
I need a second. Second by Mr. Tench. Any questions? Long time coming, that's all I can say.
I'd like to congratulate Jerry and his
Jerry.
team and the OC team, because
Yes.
I know under these trying
Trying.
circumstances, there was a lot of stuff that had to be taken care of. And you don't get it done without working
Right,
together.
yeah, yes,
So thank you.
Jerry, now you can sit back and kind of relax since you got this done. Okay, any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Stevens,
Aye.
Mr. Tench,
Aye.
Mrs. Boynton,
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy.
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson.
Aye. 5-0, thank you, board. Yes,
I do believe that it would have been appropriate for Mr. Kennedy to abstain because his wife is a member of the bargaining unit.
Mr. Who?
Mr. Kennedy.
Okay, need to go back and rescind. Mr. Stevens, would you rescind?
I do last.
You did last time?
Because it was a collective, it wasn't just her.
I just wanted to be sure we were,
Oh, we could do it again, but
What do you? To be on the safe side?
we can, it's fine.
To be on the safe side, Mr. Stevens, would you rescind your motion and would you rescind your second?
Just, I'll rescind my motion.
Yes.
And
Okay.
I'll resend my second.
Okay, thank you. The motion, now we have to vote on the rescinding. I need a motion to rescind the motion for the OPSI contract.
So moved.
Been moved by Mr. Tench,
Second?
second by Mr. Stevens. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tench,
Aye.
Mr. Stevens,
Aye.
Mrs. Boynton, Mr. Kennedy.
Aye.
And Mrs. Patterson.
Aye. Okay, now, we will vote on a motion for 5.02, the OPSI contract.
So move.
It's been moved by Mr. Stevens,
Second.
second by Mr. Tench. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Stevens,
Aye.
Mr. Tench,
Aye.
Mrs. Boynton,
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy,
Abstain.
and Mrs. Patterson.
Aye. 5-1 with one extension. And for those of you that are at home viewing this, we had to rescind it because of an employee one of our board members has an employee that works for the board. So that's why we went back and rescinded it. And then we voted on, and that board member did abstain. And I thank you. Okay, superintendent's recommendation is presented for 6.01. You don't have to vote on that.
Yeah, Dr. Johnson.
Dr. Johnson?
Good evening, Board President, Vice President, Board members. 6.01 is not for a vote this evening. This is the 22-23 calendar. I can't believe I'm saying that. But this is for posting and viewing per the guidelines. Thank you.
Okay, superintendent's recommendation is brought to us by the business manager, Mrs. Zagrafik.
thank you, Madam President. We had several personnel items on the consent agenda. These were not completed in time to make the consent agenda. Ask your indulgence and your approval of the recommendation this evening.
Need a motion for 7.01, the appointments as listed by the business manager.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Kennedy,
Second.
second by Mrs. Boynton. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Kennedy.
Aye.
Mrs. Boynton,
Aye.
Mr. Tench,
Aye.
Mr. Stevens,
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson.
Aye, 5-0, thank you, board. Before you go with your report, we received a letter from a parent, and there are some concerns in there, but the parent did not, as I sent to you, the copy of the letter, did not put their name in it. So I'm making a call, an outreach call to that parent to either contact me or the superintendent. If you don't want the superintendent to know who you are, you can contact me or Mrs. Boynton so that we can resolve some of your issues. I thank you for that. Okay, superintendent's report, Dr. Selico.
Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. I do have a couple of updates and things that I wanted to just mention that were in the consent agenda, but we didn't have a chance to discuss, but I just wanted to point out some thank yous to begin with. As you know, our resource room has really been a success. We've been soliciting donations. We're going to up our efforts a little bit. I have some upcoming meetings with some stakeholders in our community that I will be soliciting some help from. But with that being said, we already have a couple of people. The Bedford Church of the Nazarene, Pastor Mike Dennis, has given us a nice donation in the form of a check from his congregation. So I want to say thank you to them. He's also, I'm sure you all know who he is. He's a very nice, kind man who's just really been great with our students, very active in our sports programs, in our schools, and mentoring, etc. The other donation that we've received is from the Bedford Foundation. So I asked, as you know, they give me an allocation each year. So I've asked them to commit $1,500 every year to help sustain the program. And so I've been granted that. So we will use that money. We've established a fund. I've asked Bill, Mr. Parkinson, to establish a fund. And so he's opened up a line item. And so now we have an account that we can put checks into. And we've also created a letter that will be going out soon with not only asking for monetary donations, but also what you can donate in items. So we will take those as well. So I just wanted to let you know the update on that. We also had, I texted you, I think, I don't know when that was, last week, when we were giving the ACT test and we lost internet connection. Well, it was due to the negligence of a company that was working on our lines and we did not know they were. And so as a result, James was not exactly thrilled with them, and he reached out to them and was able to negotiate a couple $1,000s for them to buy Apple AirPods for them. They're going to purchase, I think, 10, and then they'll raffle them off to the students who need to retake the test as a gesture of, we want you to come back, we're sorry, we're trying to encourage you. And we also are going to feed them lunch and breakfast. So we're going to give them the royal treatment. We know how hard it is to take a test once, let alone have to sit and take it twice. But they weren't finished, and so they had to retake it. Many of them, not all. And then to update you on the board, the basketball, the boys won last night. I did have an opportunity to go, and that was exciting. Our defense is amazing. They are just, I could tell the other team, the opponents were feeling that pressure. So they won, and that was the semi-district. And now they'll move to Saturday. They'll play at St. Ed's at 7 o'clock. And so we're looking forward to that. And we're anticipating them playing St. Ed's, but I'm not sure. I'm sorry?
Where are they playing?
They're playing at St. Ed's. So I think there's a game that's happening with St. Ed's and someone else, and we play the winner. But we're thinking it's going to be St. Ed's. But they're doing great. A couple dunks and all that good stuff. Lastly, I just want to mention again the equity policy. Just to reiterate with that policy, what we've done is we have our framework where we have our 4 cornerstones of equity. And so we have subcommittees, and the subcommittee that I lead actually is the policy and funding pieces, aspects of equity, and how we allocate our resources and how we establish policy to make sure that everything else happens, because that is our foundation for how we're going to behave. And so in that, I just want to mention that we hit a number of things, such as funding, the allocation of resources. That does not always mean that every child gets the same. This is based on need, student needs, where they're at, and how we distribute funds and resources equitably, as well as staffing and aligning our staff and making sure that we are addressing those needs. And then we also have a social justice. The whole history of marginalization comes into this policy as well, and our achievement gaps. So all the things that we will do to ensure that our students are learning and getting what they need based on their needs, meeting where they are at. So I just wanted to touch a little bit further on that because it is such a big deal. And then, because I somehow forgot about our board president's birthday 2 weeks ago.
That's okay. That's
2
all right.
weeks ago to the day, I totally blew it. We could have had it on her birthday. She was here for a meeting. We have those, and
You didn't have to. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
and that concludes my report.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know you wrote in your Friday notes about House Bill 67.
Yes.
So where are we going to have to do testing?
So I actually have another update that I'll be giving
Okay.
you. We have been inundated with every day something new. They're on the floor today. There's an emergency clause here. We need you to vote. We need you to voice your opinion. So I've contacted our House Rep Phil Robinson with his office today, just in support of 67. So House Bill 67 would do away with testing, but the challenge is that the federal government is saying that you can't have waivers. They are not going to grant waivers. So now the state has to try to navigate that because they were ready to pass through. I think that was going to pass, but because of the federal legislation came through. So now it's kind of been thrown for a loop, but I believe they were trying to vote on it the end of this week. So we're anticipating if we have to have tests, they did do away with the American history one, it's a state but not a federal requirement. So at the very least, we will have to administer these tests with extensions, accommodations, maybe even from home. They'll allow kids to do it online, and then they will not be counting our test results for us. But it's sort of just sitting there because the feds threw us for a loop, the legislators for a loop, because they weren't expecting that statement. Yeah, but thank you for asking. That's a good question.
And the other thing, how is our school, the opening? I mean, this is the second week, third, next
Yeah.
month of school.
Yeah.
So how is it going?
I think it's going
Miss-
well.
Excuse me,
Yes.
I couldn't hear the question.
Oh,
Could you repeat
I'm sorry.
whatever the question was?
I was asking Dr. Selico about, we've been in school for a month. How is it going?
I think it's going well. We certainly have things that popped up that we have to address, such as kids not coming to school that are supposed to be in school and they stay online because they don't want to come to school because it's too cold, or not real good excuses. So we're working through that a little bit, contacting parents about that. We don't have very many students in grades the intermediates, it's actually Columbus and Carrollwood are very different. You see very few kids at Columbus, but yet you have more at Carrollwood. And then 7 through 12, high school is very strange. I've been in a number of classrooms, 2, 4, 5 kids in there. We're definitely maintaining social distancing. Everything is done. I've watched procedures. We're doing well. But teachers, I think, are really trying, and I've talked to many of them and asked them how live streaming is going, because that was the big, concern going into this. And they're comfortable. They're getting much more comfortable with it. They said at first, of course, I anticipated it being challenging, but not hearing much from parents, which could be, I appreciate their comments, but apparently that things must be going fairly well if I haven't received many calls. So,
Any questions?
You touched on it, Dr. Selico. The one concern I had with the coming back is that we talked about the parents that signed up their kids and they were going to be obligated to be there. What happens if they didn't? And am I hearing you correct that is happening?
not anymore. What's happening now is that we've settled in. Like maybe the first week or two, we still had kids. Well, I don't want parents saying I don't want my student to attend. Actually, I said they were going to. But after that, once we've settled in, and we did make some exceptions, but they were rare. But now it's just kids are deciding that they just want to stay home sometimes.
Well, I guess
yeah.
my question would be then, are they being marked absent?
Well, and so recently what I asked the principals to do, actually this week, was contact the parents, let them know that if their students do not attend and they're signed up to enroll, even if they go in online, they are marked absent. They have to be in school. They'll still be getting their education, but they committed to being in person. So, but we're giving them the warning first, so they know.
Okay, I just, because I get it, but it seems like a
Yeah.
built-in excuse not to come to school.
Sure.
Because they're getting their classes, I get that.
Yeah.
They're at home, they're online, and they're getting their instruction, but they made an agreement to be at school.
That's right. And that's how we look at it.
How many students were affected at the ACT with the power outage?
We had about 100, but from my understanding, I don't know if Dan knows any more about this, not to put you on the spot, but some were in the computer lab or something that didn't lose, or that were hardwired, and there were maybe 25 students in there who weren't affected by this. Is that right?
Yeah, so about 25 to 30 students who were using a computer that was hardwired were able to finish and submit, but there was probably roughly 80 to 100 students who couldn't submit their test.
Okay.
So those were, just from sending out the emails and phone calls home, there was probably about 100, 110 on a list that were getting notifications that come in. Now, I don't know the numbers of who came in, but
I didn't know if they were all infected or if there's a percentage. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? All right.
Very fast.
All right, need a motion for adjournment.
So move. Second.
Been moved by Mr. Tench, second by Mr. Kennedy. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tench,
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy,
Aye.
Mrs. Boynton,
Aye.
Mr. Stevens,
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson.
Aye. Thank you, board.
You.